What I want to talk about is following up a little bit on what Heather was talking about, and where these decisions really are being made and who's making these decisions. She mentioned the FDA, and I'm going to come back to the FDA in a moment, but she had quoted some arguments that the FDA had made in a case that was brought against them by the Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund challenging the interstate ban on raw milk sales. So what the FDA basically said is there's no inherent right to the food of our choice or the food that we eat. The United States has never recognized the right to food, never recognized that we, as citizens of the United States or as human beings, have a right to the food that we choose. I think this explains why we have the food that we have available to us. And so the FDA's argument has actually filtered down to the state level. And there was a suit brought in Wisconsin, dairy country, by the Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund challenging that state's ban on raw milk. And that judge, this is what he had to say in that case. He said that Wisconsin residents do not have a fundamental right to own and use a dairy cow or a dairy herd, do not have a fundamental right to consume the milk from their own cow, do not have a fundamental right to board their cow at the farm of a farmer, do not have a fundamental right to produce and consume the foods of their choice, and cannot enter into private contracts without state police power intervention. So this was September. Within a month, this judge had left the bench, and can anybody guess where he's working? Not the FDA, I'll give you a hint. Monsanto! Winner! Monsanto! So these arguments are coming out of the FDA and they're filtering down to our state courts and to our state governments, but not our state legislature. And here I want to read something that our state legislature passed at the end of the first session earlier this year. Passed unanimously. And this is a non-binding resolution, but it's a statement of intent from our legislature. And this was the joint resolution expressing the sentiment of the legislature for food sovereignty. And it says, whereas, according to the Declaration of Independence, all people are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And whereas food is human sustenance and is the fundamental prerequisite to life, and whereas the basis of human sustenance rests on the ability of all people to save seed and grow, process, consume, and exchange food and farm products, and whereas it is our obligation as elected representatives of the people of Maine to protect the fundamental freedoms as enshrined by the Constitution of Maine and the United States Constitution, and to protect agricultural, ecological, and economic diversity and sustainability for a free and healthy society, now therefore be it resolved that we, the members of the 125th Legislature now assembled in the first regular session, on behalf of the people we represent, and in recognition of our state's proud agricultural heritage, take this opportunity to oppose any federal statute, law, or regulation that attempts to threaten our basic human right to save seed and grow, process, consume, and exchange food and farm products within the state of Maine. So there apparently is trouble with communication between the legislature and our executive branch, and we hope that our legislators assembled here will rectify that. Lastly, I want to talk about who's sitting at the top of the food chain at the FDA. About 2 years ago, Monsanto! And Cargill. In particular, a man by the name of Michael Taylor. Michael Taylor was appointed by Barack Obama to be the food safety czar. Now, since Michael Taylor left law school in the 1970s, he has been going back and forth from the USDA, the FDA, a partner in a law firm that represents Monsanto, and Monsanto itself, where he was the vice president of public policy. And he's back at the FDA. He has had 2 positions created for him within FDA and the USDA so that he would have a position to fill. Now, in the early 1990s, when Michael Taylor was at the FDA, he was in charge when the U.S. government decided that genetically modified food and recombinant bovine growth hormone, RBGH, which is injected into cows to produce more milk, are substantially equivalent to all other foods, that these foods are generally regarded as safe. So Michael Taylor makes this public policy. He then goes to work for Monsanto as the vice president of public policy. Now he is back at the FDA having farmers and having people like Dan arrested and sued. A dairy farmer in Pennsylvania, an Amish dairy farmer, was arrested after a year-long surveillance of his farm when he crossed state lines to sell milk to his buying club members. In Venice, California, there's a warehouse where people started a private buying club so they can get access to the food that they want, healthy food in their community. And a year ago, they were raided. And you can see this video on our website, localfoodlocalrules.org. You can see the police coming in with guns drawn. You know, drop your coconut milk, draw your raw milk, you know, drop your almonds. They seize food, they seize money. The people opened their doors the next day. They went right back to it. Woo! that set off a year of surveillance of this buying club, of this private buying club, and it resulted in the arrest of 3 people: the warehouse manager, a goat farmer who was selling milk to the club, and a Weston Price chapter leader, a local activist. So they got a farmer, the warehouse manager, and an activist on conspiracy charges. So this is happening across the country. Go to localfoodlocalrules.org and you can see a list of media links where similar things are happening around the country. There's a crackdown, and I think it's because our movement is winning. The curtain has been pulled back from industrial agriculture. We know what goes on. People aren't stupid anymore. You know, we know. And people are tired of it. People are pissed off about what's being fed to their kids. You know, if you live in an urban area, in a rural area, the only food that you can get is packaged, processed food. People are tired of it, and they're standing up, and we're finding creative ways to access food for ourselves and for our communities. And they're telling us we can't do it. And it goes all the way to the top. So I invite you and any organizations or affiliations that you have to join me in my organization, Food for Maine's Future, and calling for the resignation of Michael Taylor immediately.